race day. No sleep till race day, right, buddy?
No sleep. I tell you who sleeps behind the wheel every now and then.
Me?
No, Dennis
You?
Cook. You ought to see him. He races like he's tied to an oak tree.
That guy races like he's on fire, and he is on the phone with us tonight, driver of the 45.
Cooker chassis. Wait a sec. Did you say he's on the phone?
Yes, joined with...
Oh, no. I meant to say that he's really, really good. He's got 2 wins. Second win just came this last Friday night at ID Speedway.
Dennis, thank you so much for joining us on Slingin Dirt. We do appreciate you taking the time out of your night to have a conversation with two goofballs. Hopefully we don't bring your IQ level down too much.
Well, I know one of you will. The other one I'm not sure about.
We're not going to have you define which one, but let's talk about from the beginning, if you would. Give us an insight to how Dennis Cook got started racing.
Well, 1983, I started going to watch the races at Sunset all the time. And pretty much became addicted and sat in the grandstands drinking beer, thinking I could beat everybody at the racetrack.
And how did that go for you?
Well, it didn't go so good the first year. I won they had what they called a speed dash at Sunset, where the third and fourth place cars out of the heat race ran basically a trophy dash, so they called it the speed dash. And fifth night out there, I won that. Didn't win another race the rest of the year, but that night I thought I had it all figured out.
How did you end up in a sport mod? What did you race before the sport mods? What all have you raced, that kind of stuff?
Well, I started in the Pro-Ams. Actually, they were called Broncos when I started at Sunset. And then they switched them to Pro-Ams. And I believe it was 1989, I started driving a late model for a guy that still owns a car and still races it at Crawford County and Shelby County, Ron McCoy. And I drove for him for several years. And I got out of racing for probably 10 years. And when I came back, I thought the sport mod was a affordable way to race a real race car still. And that's what I decided to race.
What's been the funnest thing that you've gotten to wheel around the racetrack so far in all the different classes that you have raced?
Well, I'm a typical racer. I like to go fast, so I always enjoyed the late model, but the sport mods are just as much fun. We don't go quite as fast, but it's still a real race car, has adjustments that a guy can make on them. They're fairly simple to work on and semi-affordable to do, and I have just as much fun racing it as I did the late model, I guess.
You think you'll ever be back in the seat of a late model?
2 years ago, I drove one for Jones's one night at the Cornhusker Classic, and I enjoyed it. Somebody would have to sponsor me or show up with a car for that to happen, because that's well out of my price range. But definitely enjoyed racing the late model again.
We seem to keep hearing that theme throughout the dirt track community that these late models are just getting to be too expensive to run. Is that something you're kind of hearing too?
They've always kind of been that way. I mean, you gotta have a pretty good budget to be racing them things and be competitive. I mean, guys put them together and they are competitive, but for me, I like to be competitive, so it's just out of my financial ability to run one of them and be competitive right now. So,
right.
You know, you talk about being competitive, and the one thing you've taught me, Dennis, and for those listening that don't know, Dennis Cook and I were really good friends outside of the track, and we're always talking information with each other. And Dennis, you always taught me that to be competitive on the track, you got to be competitive in the garage. That's where the races are run, and a lot of racers know that. So let's talk about your competitiveness. What's it been like building this Cooker chassis? I mean, that's you've obviously proven that you can build a winning car. Take us through that.
Well, last year, the second night of the Tiny Lund, I wrecked my store-bought car, if you will, and got to talking to my sons, and I've voiced my opinion that I always kind of wanted to build my own car or chassis, and I had two of my sons and one of their buddies lean on me about doing it, so I made an agreement with them if they showed up, helped work on it, we'd go that route and actually build the car. And the other thing that prompted me to build my own car is I'd bring those bought-in cars home, store-bought if you will, and there was always something that I didn't like. I wanted to change. I'd cut them up and change them, and always seemed like pretty good at making them work. So I just kind of decided to build my own car, and at this point, it was a good decision.
Can you define for me a little bit, if you will, like when you say that there was just something about them you didn't like? Can you go into more detail as far as, can you pick one thing you remember that you didn't like? What did you move about the car to made it more comfortable for you?
Well, the first thing, and you're talking about comfort, they never make the cockpits big enough. I'm a 6-foot dude and I weigh 250 pounds, and they're made for little bitty scrawny guys to be crawling in there driving. I just was never very comfortable sitting in them. Couldn't get the seat low enough for proper head clearance. The pedals are too close to me, and the steering wheel's too close. So when I built my own car, that was where I started, was building it to accommodate a guy my size sitting in there and being comfortable.
And then what was the next modifications you would make to it? Was there some stuff with the chassis to make it hook up a little bit better that you just knew through experience this would work better?
I believe the front end geometry, you have to spend a lot of time with that. The pickup points for the trailing arms in the rear end, and spring placement in the rear end has a lot to do with making the darn things work. And I've experimented a few years ago on an old Harris car, and found a spot where I was happy with that, and I kind of went back to that when I built this car in terms of, for me, having the rear springs further apart rather than closer together, which is kind of the trend they've gone to with the new cars. For me, it makes the car easier to set up, I guess.
Talk a little bit about your season so far. I know I got to talk to you in Victory Lane the Thursday before the Charlie Clark Memorial. You've had some success with your Cooker chassis, so fill me in on the rest of the season that I haven't got to see for you so far. How you been doing? How you been running?
Currently, I'm second the points at Harlan. I haven't won at Harlan yet. I'm still missing something over there. I've actually been working on that this week in my head, deciding what to do. I've got a few changes I'm going to make when I go to Harlan this Saturday, and it's been good at I-80. I let a wind get away from me out. Actually, I let a wind get away from me at both racetracks, but the car's been fast, it's been consistent, and when I make a change, it does what I expect it to do.
Good.
Dennis, you've been other racers, even Dan and I here in the studio, we've been talking and hearing a lot about how the price of racing is going up and up and up and up. After buying everything for your car, funding your entire program, building everything on your car, can you justify spending $16,000, $17,000, $18,000? Do you think these chassis and the parts prices are a little too high now that you've actually gone through that process of producing your own equipment?
They are, but then, the manufacturers have to make a living doing the things they're doing. And, for the most part, single race car parts are not, for me, they're not that outrageous. But, it's the combination of how many parts it takes to put one together that it ends up, the cost gets up there on you, And I did save myself a lot of money by building my own chassis, and of course I still had to buy all the add-on pieces just like everybody else does to complete the car, but
yeah,
I probably probably cut my chassis cost down to a third of what it would cost to go buy one. So
now, with your son helping you build that, and I know your son's driving a number 45 hobby stock. I mean, there's dad's car, there's son's car. The only difference is one car's got fenders, the other car doesn't, for the most part, when you look at them. Has he grown by helping you build your sport mod? Has he grown in terms of being a hobby stock driver?
Well, sure he has. I mean, the learning curve of how to work on the race cars and what they're all about, and he's continuing to grow every week. He's actually improved. Still got a long ways to go. I keep coaching him, giving him the best advice I can give him, and I didn't have that from my father. My dad was a fair mechanic, but he knew nothing about race cars. And my son's way ahead of the game in terms of that, having a father that's been doing it for umpteen years. And I'd have to say he's got a big advantage that I didn't have.
Well, that's what this is all about, is passing on the knowledge you've learned onto your kids, so that way they can be a step ahead, right?
Well, that's my goal, and that's my wish for him anyway.
Dan, obviously you've met Dennis Cook there in Victory Lane. Funny thing about Dennis Cook, he's a pretty straightforward kind of guy. Some can call him brash, harsh. He's actually a really good guy, very, very knowledgeable on cars. Really good. Will take the shirt off his back for you in a heartbeat. But here's a funny thing. Dennis is thinking when you walk through the pits and he's got his hand up to his face and he's stroking that Fu Manchu. You're like, what are you thinking, Dennis? And he'll be in his growly voice, oh, I don't know. I think you need to move that spring over there. So, I mean, when he speaks, he's, just like on the front stretch when we were talking about Morgan Shepherd going to Loudon this weekend, Dennis is the Morgan Shepherd. Dennis is the Dale Earnhardts. Dennis is the Bill Elliott. In dirt track racing, when these guys come talk to you, take 2 seconds and listen. Yeah. You'll learn a lot more than what you will on your own over the course of 10 years.
And I'll comment on that, too. You ought to take your own advice, bud.
Pick my own advice?
Yeah, listen to me when I talk to you, Dad.
But I have yet to have anybody, Bud, listen to anybody. You stubborn as a mule comes to mind when I think of Buddy. Dennis, let's talk about the rest of your 2013 season. Where are you headed and where are you going? Any specials that you plan on racing?
Really don't have any specials lined up to run. Just doing the I-80 and Harlan gigs on the weekly deal. And the specials, I kind of decide when I'm going to do it when time permits from work. I'm one of them working Joes, got a regular 9.5-hour day, 5 days a week job that racing's got to be around that because that's what pays for racing.
All right. Anything you'd mentioned you were at the Tiny Lund last year. You going to try to do it again this year?
Pardon me? I didn't hear you that.
Are you going to be doing the Tiny Lund again this year?
My plans are to, yes, depending on the work schedule.
It all depends on work, huh?
It does.
All right, Dennis Cook, driver of the number 45 Sport Mod out of Harlan and I-80 Speedway. Got yourself a couple of wins on the season. Many more wins to come to you, Dennis. We greatly appreciate your time tonight.
Well, hopefully you're giving me a little good luck by saying that, and we'll get a few more wins yet this year.
Be sure to give us credit when you're in victory lane.
It's not that he beat the competition. Maybe Buddy Ray blocks the cars for him.
Well, it's dirty right now, buddy. Come on over.
All right, Dennis. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thanks for your time, man.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye.
He's an awesome guy. He's, and some people might listen to that and say, well, he's a little slow to respond. If you meet him in person, he is not slow to respond, and he's a very methodical. He's a thinkins man.
He seems to be very calculated in what he says. He's not going to be someone that's just going to run off at the mouth just because it's his turn to talk. He's one of those guys, and I aspire to be one of these guys a lot of the times, is speak when you got something to say, otherwise keep it shut.
Oh, pretty much. we've been struggling over at Crawford County Speedway, and it was Thursday night. He was there with his son pitted next to me, and he came over, and I've had so many people trying to tell me, do this, do that, do this, try that, and then Dennis comes over, and for a split second, I'm like, oh, it's just another damn driver coming and telling me what to do, and I kind of got huffy with him, and then he was like, Bud, we've been friends for a long time. I've won, listen to me. And then, I apologize. I mean, he's an elder statesman. If he was
he's
17,
one of those guys.
Yeah.
We don't call him old. He's wise.
He's very wise. He's been around the sport longer than most of us have been racing in.
Well, he said he started, he first got the case a year after I was born.
Yeah, I was born in 75,
years.
so I'm 7, 8 years old when he started racing. I mean, who am I to sit there and tell him that he doesn't know what he's talking about when he's been doing it longer than I've almost been alive?
Shall we move over to point standings and results from Crawford County, or do you want to do Shelby County first?
I got Shelby County pulled up, or do you have Crawford County pulled up?
I got Crawford ready to go.
All right, why don't you give me one of those classes, and we'll talk Crawford County. Now, we're going to do both nights because we did race Thursday and Friday.
I could do both nights, but I only got printed off for Thursday. If you give me a minute, I've only got printed off for Friday. I can get you Thursday
Let's just do
also.
Friday night.
Okay, because it was a double feature. It was a double night of racing, and man, a lot.
I tell you what,
I learned a lot.
Let's
Holy cow.
talk about car count, though. From one night to the next, was that odd?
I tell you, I sat there the entire week, and I'll admit to it, and I admitted it to my bosses. I was a little irritated that I had to work on the 4th of July because, like everybody, I wanted to be with my family. I wanted to shoot off fireworks with my nieces. It was always a tradition that they would help me light off fireworks, and we always had a good time. And unfortunately, I had to miss that for the first time. But I couldn't have picked a better thing to miss at 4 is watching and announcing some races. I assumed that had it being a Thursday, people had to work the next day. It was the 4th of July. I was kind of banking on 75, 80 cars.
See, that's what we were thinking, too. We were a little bit more. We were thinking somewhere around the 80 to 90 car mark. Yeah. I figured we'd lose about 20 or 30 cars, and it just didn't happen.
I think we ended up with 110 on Thursday.
That was really respectable.
Yeah.
But then what happened on Friday?
And again, the crowd count was there. That town and that area is supporting.
They get behind their racing.
It's amazing. And I really thought, I think we started an hour early, and we were about 10 minutes away from hot laps, and I thought, well, here we go. It's going to be 150 people in the crowd, but just like they do every time, they show up right as hot laps are going on. I think it's actually because I'm sitting up in the announcer's booth, so I can only see the seats. I think they're downstairs getting prepped for the races.
I tell you what, it's funny you mention that, honestly, because I do look and you'll see, you're like, well, the stands aren't that full, but you look down underneath the stands, that place is packed.
Yeah, and they fill up pretty quickly. So the 4th of July, I was very surprised. Higher car count than I expected, higher crowd count than I expected.
A lot of new cars, too.
Yeah, and because it was IMCA late model sanctioned, but oddly enough, again, it only drew a couple extra late models. I don't understand why we don't have a better late model count at Crawford. I can't figure it out. But I got to see Randy Foote race for the first time. Dylan Book made it back to Crawford for racing. He's kind of getting his handle on that car and on that track. Todd Cooney and Chad Cooney both came out and raced. So it was really cool to see some new late models out there. And then on Friday night, a lower car count than I expected. I wouldn't really say that. I didn't really put a number on it because I learned my lesson with the previous night. Don't expect one thing because you're going to be wrong. And another good car count, respectable. I want to say it was like 112, 114 cars for the feature events. There was a couple of cars that showed up late, didn't make it for the heat races. And then a fantastic crowd count. I mean, it was a fantastic crowd count.
Have you noticed?
Oh, by the way, probably one of the best tracks I've seen at that place.
Thursday night, as a driver,
it was a rough track Thursday night.
Well,
the track got away from Junior.
When we say rough, it's not like it was wholly divoty,
you're right.
ruddy rough.
You're right.
It was they just didn't put enough water on it. But here's where I give a attaboy to the Crawford County officials. They didn't shy away from it. They're like, we just missed the mark. We just didn't put enough water on it.
Yep.
So it was kind of funny. I turned around to some of the other drivers when I was asking about it. I was like, watch, tomorrow night it's going to be a totally different ball game, and boy, howdy was it different. I mean, that was just a really good track Friday.
It was fantastic, and I mean, that is the only complaint I had from Thursday night. My truck had an extra layer of protection on it after we left because it was just a sheer layer of dirt.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was bad how dusty it was.
You know what?
But really, I was kind of surprised. There really wasn't much they could do. After the heat races, they came out and laid down another tanker of water on it, and that helped a little bit, but
by the
as soon
second
as the
feature,
Sport Compact was off
done.
the track in that feature event, it was back to being dry. And they couldn't take the time to lay down water after every feature event because they had to take caution laps to pack it in and make sure it was good, safe driving conditions. So it's just a bad situation, and they remedied it on Friday. But the results from Friday's Sport Compact feature event, listen, the bad thing about results is you don't get the picture of the racing. And this came down to some of the best racing between these three guys, the three top finishers. But the fifth place was Kyle Furrer. Fourth place was Cody Thompson. Third place, Joe Laddiehoff. Kane Malberg made his reappearance at Crawford County in the 24M out of Dunlap, and Tyler Thompson got the win. Tyler stalked Kane for those last couple of laps, and in the final corner, just like he did the night before on Thursday, coming out of turn 4, he finds some mysterious grip.
Kane, you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about Tyler.
Oh,
Tyler
okay.
found some mysterious grip and got to the inside of Kane and was able to get the win away on the final turn.
What I noticed about Kane is at the beginning of the race, about the first half of the race, you will see Kane threading the needle, splitting hairs, coming through the pack. But by the end of the race, his car just doesn't seem quite as fast as the first half of the race. But now Tyler and Cody, to me, I see it a little bit different. They are very, very good racers.
Yeah.
But they're not like the ones that go from last to first in the first few laps. They're a very methodical, picking them off one at a time each lap.
And I tell you, if the Malbergs would run consistently at Crawford, they kind of jump around between tracks, and they don't really do points racing. They just go wherever they feel like it that week.
They have fun.
Yeah. If the Malbergs and the Thompsons were to be there weekly,
what a battle!
Oh my God, that would easily be the best show on dirt.
But I do want to make sure that we go back, and I want to state that the other Sport Compacts that are there weekly, even when the Malbergs aren't there, those compacts, you don't see them spread out all over the track. A lot of times you see 4 to 7 car pack racing at Denison. Those Sport Compacts, they may not be as fast as the A-mods, they might not be as expensive as the late models, but don't think for 1 second they're not putting on some damn good racing.
And they're having fun. I was down in the pits after the races on Thursday talking to Joe Laddiehoff, and he goes, listen, I will race door to door with those Thompson boys anytime because I can trust them. And so I know that they're not going to hit me on the backstretch. They're not going to turn me. They're not going to do anything dirty. What did I say?
No, I was just thinking before you start rattling off the top 5 in the feature, I want you to do the top 6 in the Sport Compacts.
No. Nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because I realized after Friday I usually do the top 6 results. I saw that 87S Eric out of Ida Grove, Iowa. No, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to do it. And I already read off the top 5, by the way, so you missed it.
Eric Schneckloff?
I don't even know what nationality that is. What's that lineage?
Schneckloff?
It is literally S-C-H.
And we're not making fun of him.
No.
We're trying to figure out how to pronounce his name. Maybe he can get a hold of us on Facebook
and
tell
God.
us.
S-C-H-N-E-C-K-L-O-T-H. It's obviously Neckloff.
Schneckloff.
I mean, that's got to... Oh, my God. I saw that on Friday night, and I was like, oh, my God, this is why I got to pre-read things. But just because we've had a long conversation about these Sport Compacts. Again, your top 5. Kyle Furrer, Cody Thompson, Joe Laddiehoff in 3rd, Kane Malberg comes home in 2nd, and Tyler Thompson, 3 straight wins that week. He won Wednesday at Alta, Thursday at Crawford, Friday at Crawford. I don't know if he won Saturday at Shelby.
No, he wasn't at Shelby, but Sunday night, I think he was top 4 there.
Those Thompson boys are doing
They're on fire.
How about the hobby stocks?
In the hobby stock feature, taking home 5th place, starting 27 of Jason Cole. Man, he's up front everywhere he goes. With a car that he's rolled once or twice, maybe 3 times, man, good Lord, does he keep him coming.
Yeah.
Galen Freeze out of Galva, Iowa, started 3rd, taking home 4th place. Fuzzy Jason Fusselman out of Shelby, Iowa, in that 55 car, started 7th, finishing 3rd. Corey Madden, there's a familiar name up front, out of Avoca, Iowa. Car number 2 started 9th, finished 2nd, and Justin Nuring out of Storm Lake, Iowa. Is that his first feature win this year?
Second.
Okay, started 6th, finished 1st. Hands down, Jason Cole, 12th to 5th. That is my honorable mention right there.
If you take my point sheet and flip it over, the point standings on the back. That has the feature wins and heat wins.
Oh, now
I think he's like second or third for feature wins there, isn't he? Because he's got 2, and I think Chuck and Corey both have 3.
Feature wins. As of July 5th, you have Chuck Madden with 3, Corey Madden with 1, Jason Cole with 1, and Justin Nearing with 2.
Yeah. Nearing's been doing really good. He's starting to really come back on. He kind of had a slow start to the season, but it's starting to come back for him. In the Joe's Karting Sport Mod division, Bud Pash out of Ottawa comes home in 5th. Evan Nimitz gets a 4th place finish. Doug Smith in 3rd. Ryan Topf comes home in 2nd. And Tyler Gross gets himself another win. That is 3 weeks in a row. No, 2 weeks in a row that he's won.
Oh, by the way, Tyler, he won Thursday.
Yep.
Won Friday.
Yep.
He won Saturday at Harlan.
Wow, a complete weekend sweep.
I walked up to Tyler Gross Saturday night at Harlan. I was like, Tyler, he's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
He's like, what's going on, bud? And I was like, hey, you do know that greed is one of the 7 deadly sins. He's like, so what do you want me to do? Don't win tonight. He started laughing. He goes,
let somebody else win. By the way, I can't. Was it you I was talking to with Tim Rupp? He had 3 feature wins, and as of a couple of weeks ago, he was leading in the point series, but he hasn't come back to Crawford. Do you know what's going on with Tim?
I don't know what's going on, but he has his car either for sale or it's sold. I don't know what's going on there.
God, he had that 33 machine running like a champ.
But you know what? I want to mention something about these sport mods at Crawford County. Don't think that just because these guys aren't at your local track that these aren't some of the fastest guys that I've ever seen in sport mods, because I race against Eagle, I went and raced Harlan, I raced Denison, I race everywhere around here. These guys, their cars get on the bar so hard, so erratically. And when I say erratically, I don't mean that in a bad sense, but they're getting on the bar so fast, and they're such good drivers that I tell you, I honestly think that if you're to take anybody in that top 11 right there, anybody could have won a feature. Hands down.
In the point standings or the results for Friday?
I'm looking at the results. Anybody top 11 in the results Friday could win any given week out there.
I agree. Evan Nimitz has won a race. Doug Smith has won 2. Tyler Gross has won 3. Tim Rupp has won 3. Chase Ellingson has won 1. Bud Pash has been close a couple of times. Steve Reitz was really close. Ryan Topf should have won twice by now, but wrecked both times, leading the feature. So
Bud Pash and Ryan Topf, I see. If they do not finish with a feature win this year, I will be shocked, because those two are some of the 2 most deserving of a feature win right now, in my opinion.
What about the stock cars?
In the stock cars, taking home 5th place. Wow. J.J. Bomley?
Yeah, J.J. Bomley.
Out of Lathrup, Missouri, car number 6 started 4th, finished 4th. Flying Brian Blessington out of Breda, Iowa. If you ever get a chance to meet him, he is a super nice guy.
I've been meaning to get down there and talk to him.
Started 8th, finished 4th. Adam Clokey out of Carroll, Iowa in the 02, started 2nd, finished 3rd.
It's going to feel good to do this. Clucky. You said it wrong, buddy.
Oh. Clucky. All right.
At least as far as I know, you said it wrong.
And then Donovan Smith out of Lake City, Iowa, car 35. He's always up there, top 3, top 4. Started 10th, finished 2nd. Andy Gage in the 02A car started 3rd, finished 1st. Honorable mention, I would have to put to Trent Murphy, started 12th, finished 7th.
Yeah.
Once again, this is another one of those guys where he seemed new. You just never really saw him before. So, I mean, good. And that stock car feature at Denison, that's another class. Any given night, you got several guys that could.
Well, so far, okay, it came down to final turn passes for the sport compacts and the hobby stocks. The sport mods, nobody was catching Tyler Gross.
No.
And then hobby or stock cars came down to the same thing. Late models, it was an incredibly close battle. No, I take that back. Ryan Griffith was just absolutely lapped the field. I mean, just destroyed the field. For your top 5s for the late models, Al Zeitner out of Bellevue comes home in 5th. Jay Stewart 4th. Jason Haney, the defending track champion, in 3rd place. Todd Cooney in 2nd. And Ryan Griffith out of Webster, Iowa in the 15X.
That's who that was.
Nobody was catching him.
No. Not even.
It was, listen, who do you even want to compare it to? I mean, it was a Jimmy Johnson at Pocono performance. Nobody had anything for
I'm
him.
a huge 76 Haney fan,
Yeah.
and it's great to see, but it's really refreshing to see somebody new come in there and take home a feature win.
That late model division, I mean, it's kind of up in the air as far as I'm concerned. It's Haney lost the championship because he had lost the point standings because he had a bad finish last week, but the week before, what was that, June 30th, I think, was the racing. Am I right? Am I doing that math right? No,
yeah,
June 28th.
June 28th
was the last Friday night race. He had a bad finish, and so he comes back on Thursday night and just destroys the field.
Yeah.
So,
he said he was going to win that night. He said he wanted to make up for that.
He definitely called it. What about the modifieds? Wrap up the modifieds for us.
In the modifieds, taking home fifth place, starting sixth, the 15 in of Shane DeMay out of Denison, Iowa. In the 48, started fourth, finished fourth. Can't talk tonight. Bob Moore out of Sioux City, Iowa. Dangerous Dale Ransom. Man, he looked good in that 2R car.
Yeah.
Started on the pole, finishing third. Chris Abelson out of Sioux City, Iowa, in the 1X machine. Started eighth, finished second. And crazy himself, Jesse Sabine out of Glenwood, Iowa, in car number 99. Started ninth, finished first. But I tell you what, I want to go down here to seventh place. Matt Bonine from Ottawa, Iowa, 19th to 7th. Wow.
Matt's finally got that car figured out. He was good at Crawford County last year, got into a little bit of a tussle with Josh Most, and his car was destroyed. Not able to get it back to the track for several weeks, and then I think he just decided to give up on the points drive and kind of went around. But he's got that car underneath him again. The modifieds are starting to come back around. It hasn't. I mean, honestly, it's been Jesse Sabing and Chris Abelson the last 5 weeks.
I tell you what, though, with that being said, was that feature Friday night?
Yeah, but Shane DeMay and Matt Bonine are both getting that car underneath of him. Bub Lorette is making his way back up to the front. Bob Moore seems to be getting that car underneath of him. Those guys are starting to catch Chris and Jesse. Now, none of them are going to catch him for the championships. It's just not feasible. In fact, I don't think Chris is going to catch Jesse for the championship.
I don't think so.
He's 27 points behind
and that's
Jesse.
as of July 5th. The new points aren't added in there yet.
And we've got they are.
Oh, they are.
That is because that Friday night race was a points standings race. Thursday night was not a points sanctioned race, but Friday night was.
Yeah. Okay.
So Sabing is 27 points in the lead. I don't think Abelson's going to catch him. The only thing is if the only thing I can think of is Sabing breaks.
Well, you got to remember in IMCA in their division in their feature they get 40 points for a win. So Sabing breaks once, he could literally fall to fourth or fifth.
Second.
So second. They're that far out.
Yeah, because the racer Ricky Steffen is 45 points behind.
Oh, okay.
So,
alrighty.
But I mean that isn't a very. The point standing isn't what's the interesting thing about that. It's the actual racing you see on the track.
Well, you know what's interesting about Abelson and Jesse, too? We hear a lot about, well, I'm all for the crate. Well, I hate the crate.
Yeah.
Well, this guy's all for the crate. Or that guy really hates the crate. Here you have Jesse with a crate. You got Abelson with an open motor.
It all comes down to who prefers what engine.
Who prefers what engine, but more so, Dan, as a driver, that is showing you the car setup on the car. You know, Jesse's given up hundreds of horsepower to Abelson, but he can get what horsepower he's got to hook up to the dry slick track.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes Abelson's got,
too much horsepower.
And he's lighting the tires up. It's all about car setup and how smooth you are on the throttle.
There's been a lot of conversation with the officials getting a little frustrated with Abelson's driving. And I don't want to call anybody out and say anybody's a bad driver. Abelson's a bit of a rough driver. He's got a bit of a Dale Earnhardt in him where I take it as I call it the Dale Earnhardt of dirt track. Dale Earnhardt of NASCAR could give you a lap or two before he moved you. You don't have that affordability in a 20-lap feature. You got to get him out of the way now.
You got to move.
And Chris will do that, but the officials at Crawford are getting a little sick of it, and they penalized him this week. It was for jumping the restart, but I've heard them over the radio several times. 1X, back off. You're on your last string.
Here's how I feel on that. When you take the fast guys, your Josh Most, your Chris Abelson, your Ricky Steffen, your Jesse Sabing, the guys that week in, week out, no matter where they go, they're fast.
Yeah.
A good analogy of it, Dan, in your Ford Ranger, and I've seen you drive fast in your Ranger. How many times have you gone down, and I've been with you down I-29, I-80, and you're doing 75, 80 mile an hour, and you got the jack wagon in a Ford Festiva that pulls right over in front of you at 65 mile an hour.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to understand that. I'm not going to go with you on that analogy. There has been times where Chris just flat up used 8 tires and used up another car to get that.
Is it because he did it deliberately, or is it because his car is so fast and the other guy's just not as fast as Chris? So when you get in there and you make those split-second decisions, it's real easy from that announcer standing or the stands to sit there and go, well, Chris, you're doing this,
I'm not saying he did a bad thing.
No, that's what I'm saying.
What he did was rough racing.
You have a Z06 Corvette out there running against Volkswagen
but you don't.
Bugs.
You've got 2 different cars. You've got the same type of cars, but they're not set up the same. This is still top 5 racing when he's getting into the back of somebody. I've seen him several times come off the corner and slide up into somebody. I'm not saying that he's sitting there going, I'm just going to run the guy off the track and take the position. This is the same thing that we had this debate at, Auto Club when Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin got together and Hamlin ended up getting hurt. I don't think Abelson's going into that corner saying, if I go in a little bit harder, I can slide up and hit him. I think it just happens. And so they're on the radio saying, 1X, back off.
Well, there was
1X, back off.
There was one time in the feature, Abelson came down on the – it looked like he almost got on the back bumper of Jesse going into turn 3, and it was under a green flag. Well, there were several people standing on top of my trailer. On the one restart, Abelson's out front, and if you remember, Jesse Friday night comes to the bottom of 1, and he drives right by Chris. That's an intimidation factor going.
But Abelson never had the pole on the restarts with Solid.
No, it was during the caution laps. They were going around the track. It was on the caution laps. Here's Abelson.
They were just testing. Yeah, they were.
And so here comes crazy up on the left side of Abelson, and we were all laughing like, whether that's what he's trying to do or not, it looks like an intimidation move. So then when you're under green flag racing, and then you got Abelson kind of tapping his back bumper, that's an intimidation move. It's not that he's trying to wreck him or nothing like that.
Yeah.
Abelson is one of the nicest guys I've ever met. He's not out there. Yeah. He will not tell you. He's not going to tell you, well, I'm going to come wreck your stuff tonight. I'm going to destroy your stuff. He's not that kind of racer. But I tell you what, when you go to race somebody like Crazy or Chris, you better have your A game on and bring your big boy britches because you're liable to get soiled.
That's not where he's getting in trouble. It's not the battle for the lead. And that battle for the lead was good, clean racing. Those 2 raced hard for the win.
It was an amazing race.
But what I'm saying is that when Abelson's back in the pack at the beginning of the race, he's a little more aggressive than the officials would. Let me finish. He's a little more aggressive than the officials want him to be.
When you got a car that's 30 mile an hour faster than everybody else, should you just lay off and be like Jimmy Johnson at Daytona and
if your car
patient?
Is that fast, you shouldn't be hitting them coming out of the corners on the side. You should have that car hooked up more. What I'm seeing and when I'm hearing it over the radio is when he's sliding up from the low side,
he's butt tapping them.
Not butt tapping him. He's side by side, and he's getting into the side of him and using 8 wheels instead of 4 as grip. But again, we don't want to sound like we're calling anybody out, and I'm not calling him a bad driver. I'm not calling him a dirty racer or anything like that. Please don't take that as that. I'm saying that of all of the drivers I'm hearing at Crawford, the conversation is that he is being a little more aggressive than they want him to be, and I keep hearing it over the radios. Are you hearing that in the pits at all? Any other modified drivers talking about they're tired of Abelson using them up?
No, but I haven't really asked him either.
Well, maybe we should do that. We get a little
ask a little poll question.
Yeah, under the little undercover work.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it. You can do it. Maybe ask PJ to do it.
Hey, there we go. I'll send him in there. They seem to like PJ. So that does it. We got the Joe's Karting Dirt Series, right?
Shelby County.
We just did Shelby County. No, we didn't do Shelby County. Good Lord, man. We got to quit talking so much. Sport Compact, Shelby County feature event, top 5, Jordan Androy in the 00. Sean Cooney comes home in 4th. Dave Archibald in 3rd. Bronson Griffith out of Portsmouth comes home in 2nd. And son of a bitch. David Shikario.
Skarenko.
Wow, was I way off. Holy cow. Started on the pole and got the win finish on the pole. Biggest mover of the day was the number starting 9th, finishing 3rd, Dave Archibald. Other than that, that's how the top 5 turned out for your Sport Compacts.
In your hobby stock division, taking home 5th place. Wow, here's another front runner. Jason Cole in that 27 started 8th, finished 5th. Fuzzy Jason Fuzzelman out of Shelby County in that 55 machine started 6th, finished 4th. Dusty Van Horn, that 33 VH Hot Rod, started 10th, finishing 3rd. Corey Madden, brother to Chuck Madden Jr. It's either their brothers.
Yeah, they're
brothers.
They're brothers.
Car 2 started 9th, finished 2nd, and Chuck Madden Jr. out of Oka, Iowa, in that 2X machine started 7th, taking home the W. Honorable mention by far and away, I would have to say, would be Dustin Van Horn in that 33 VH from 10th to 3rd. I tell you what, it was fun going to the Shelby County for the first time Saturday night in a number of years. Shocked a lot of people when I pulled in.
That's because they knew. Never mind. Top 5 finishes in the Sport Mod features. I'll let you off this time. I had a good one ready to go. ADH, the Allen Hop out of Harlan, Iowa, comes home in 5th. Doug Smith in 4th. Jared Hansen out of Audubon comes home in 3rd. Cody Olson from 10th to 2nd. And then your winner, like you mentioned earlier, Tyler Gross gets the win. Let's see, biggest mover. I'm seeing Evan Nimitz from 15th to 9th. I think that's probably your biggest mover. Tyler Nathan Mumm comes up 6 positions. But Cody Olson actually is your biggest mover. 8 positions, started 10th, finished 2nd.
I tell you what, that Tyler Gross, it's just awe-shocking just how fast he is in that. And you know what's ironic is, remember that week he rolled at Crawford County?
Yeah.
And it was the very next week he starts winning all these races. I'm like,
that's an accident that actually worked out for him. And the guy we ended up talking to earlier tonight, Dennis Cook, started 9th, finished 7th out of Missouri Valley, Iowa. How about them stock cars?
In the stock car division, Jeff Anderson out of Atlantic, Iowa in the 78 machine started 5th, finished 5th. Keith Knopp in that 10X out of Shelby, Iowa started 8th, finished 4th. Mike Harris out of Avoca, Iowa in the 83 machine started 10th, finishing 3rd. Flying Brian Blessington out of Breda, Iowa in the 92B started 6th, finished 2nd. And Kenneth Hansen out of Audubon, Iowa in car 17 started 7th, finished 1st. Honorable mention, I would have to say, would have to go to Mike Harris starting 10th, finishing 3rd, 7 positions. That a boy.
For your late models, in 5th place, Randy Foote out of Stanton, Iowa, comes home in 5th. I guess Randy knows my dad. He was talking to PJ about it in the pits on Friday night.
I think everybody knows your dad in Southwest Iowa.
Well, not that far up north. Well, yeah, okay, they do. Because my dad used to build grain bins all over Southwest Iowa, and it was always irritating on family trips because, I built that grain bin in 79, I built that one in 83, and I mean, the stuff he knows.
The grain bin tour.
He could. That's what it turned out to. That was the Taylor family trip, was the grain bin tour. Like, well, let's go see what grain bins I built in 85, Dan.
So I bet you if your family's life was ever put on the big screen, instead of the bridges of Madison County, it'd be the grain bins of Stanton County.
Exactly. It'd be the grain bins of Montgomery County, because that's what he did when he wasn't farming, was building grain bins and fixing cars. But anyways, Randy Foote comes home in 5th, Al Zeitner in 4th, Barry Sorensen in 3rd, Todd Cooney comes home in 2nd, and Dave Livingston. Good to see Dave back up on the win. Started 5th, finished 1st, biggest mover of the race. Todd Cooney, 7th to 2nd. So that's your late model feature event.
Honorable mention, you got one?
That was it.
Oh, okay. I better start listening.
Yeah, maybe.
All righty. Over to the Joe's Karting Dirt Track Series now, and then we'll be ready to wrap this up, maybe go eat some Boom Boom Shrimp. So, are you looking at this, Dan? Look how close this is.
I'm full. I'm starving. Look at how close what is?
The Joe's Karting Dirt Track Series.
What are you going to do, the modified results?
Oh, yeah, let's
Shelby?
do the modified.
You make fun of me for having Boom Boom Shrimp on the mind. Now you're trying to nix it. And even your hero, you're not even going to mention him.
Out of Harlan, Iowa, in the 18 machine, the Harlan Hellraiser himself, Taman Weir, started 8th, finished 5th. Jeff James out of Stanton, Iowa, in that 71J, started 15th, finishing 4th. Ricky the Racer Steffen out of South Sioux City, Nebraska, in the 25 Hot Rod, started 18th, finished 3rd. And Dangerous Dale Ransom in the 2R started 3rd, finishing 2nd. And Crazy out of Glenwood, Iowa, Jesse Sabin in the 99 machine, started 11th, finished 1st. I tell you what, Jesse, Dale, and Ricky Steffen at Harlan, that was one of the best races I had seen in a long, long time.
There's been some fantastic racing, fantastic finishes the last couple of weeks.
There has. At Harlan, though, I want to take a kind of a somber moment here and want to say it's great to hear that Dan Riley is okay. He took a horrendous roll off the back straightaway. That was, I've been doing this since 1994, weekly racing, and I've been going to the racing since 85, and that was one of the hardest licks I've ever seen.
And we also need to talk about, I don't believe we got a chance to talk about it last week, or we hadn't heard about it before we finished recording the show, but a racer, Andrew Hicks, lost his life. I think it was Wednesday last week he passed away.
I believe so.
We recorded Wednesday night and hadn't got the information before we recorded, but still, nonetheless, it's a very painful moment. in time down in the pits at Crawford, at Harland, both Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. Both tracks doing some memorials and tributes to him, and it was tough. I didn't know Andrew, but I always get a little choked up in those moments, especially when a community like that comes together and tries to pay tribute to a friend and someone that I never heard a bad thing about him. Always heard that he was just an incredibly nice guy, funny,
man.
charismatic.
Him and his wife, Cassandra, I believe is her name.
Yep.
I met them, Colt and Michael Baker, a guy that I know. I met the Hicks when I went up to Colt Michael Baker's place, and I was looking at a Sport Compact, and I met his wife, and he was out somewhere doing something or other, and then he shows up, and
you were out somewhere doing something or another.
and then he shows up.
That's about like, I was over there, with that one person doing that one thing.
And I met him at the track several times, but man, he was just one of the most, he may not have been your first place feature winning guy every night, but I tell you what, he was a class act guy, stand-up kind of guy, awesome guy.
He was exactly what this community is built off of, and that's good-hearted people that will always help out, that will always lend a hand and do whatever he can. A lot of really good memories and tributes were paid to him. If you know Andrew and you want to share your memories with friends and family, they did set up a Facebook page. His wife did. RIP obviously stands for Rest in Peace. RIP Andrew Hicks. You can join it today and post pictures of you and Andrew. You can share of memories. I know we posted the video from Crawford County of the 4-wide salute, and there wasn't many dry eyes in the stands, in the pits that night. PJ tried to interview Tim Cass, and real heartbroken from what happened. Obviously, it's a tragedy to lose your life. I believe he was 38. I mean, he wasn't definitely not old enough to pass away. So it's always a rough time when we lose somebody in the racing community, and it's very uplifting to see how the community comes together to help. And it was great to see that again this weekend. So our thoughts and prayers are obviously with the Hicks family as they're trying to recover from a terrible loss. Let's talk about the Joe's Karting Sport Mod, or the Joe's Karting.
Joe's Karting. Well, the Joe's Karting Sport Mod right now is getting a rotor from Sartison Racing, and the other one just got its transmission back. So.
That was a sponsor slip there.
Yeah.
I almost a couple of times started reading, the Quanta Auto Salvage Hobby Stocks. The Dirt Track Series for Joe's Karting. Let's talk about that.
I tell you what, look at the current points as of 2:30 on July 8th, which was just the other day. You look at Cody Thompson there, 1,041.848 points, but look at how many nights he's got left. 16 of 17. That means he's got one night left. That's it.
He can't add any more races to his schedule?
No, because remember, they have to claim their schedule up front. They have to claim a minimum 10 nights. But
he's obviously going to be racing more.
Well, yeah, he is, but just for this series.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying, so it's locked out so that, I mean, he only claimed 17 races.
He only claimed 7. These are the 17 races he wanted to claim. Now, with that being said, look down there at third place. He's got 6 nights left.
Yeah.
So now those 6 nights, he can actually, get onwards, I want to say up to about 48, 49 points. So look at 6. Or I'm sorry, on my paper, I got a note here. On Gary Sadoff, he's got 688.5 points. He's got no races at Joe's. He's sitting third right now, but if he was to win the rest of his dirt nights, he would win 300 points. He would have 988 points. So that's how close that.
And he hasn't done a race at Joe's, and he's used 6 mulligans.
Yeah, that's 6 rainouts that he's had to go through.
Cody Thompson is in second place. Not a surprise to see the Thompson boys up on top. Those guys have come on fire the last couple of days.
Yeah, they're on fire right now. But Gary Sadoff is sitting third with 688.5 points. Jordan Evans sitting fourth place with 644 points. Steve McConnell 641.454 points.
Hey, Jordan Evans, any relation to Evan? I'm sorry. Nope. Dumb moment there.
Yeah, okay. Howard Kozel out of Omaha. He's sitting, or Steve McConnell, I'm sorry, 641.454 points. Sixth place, Howard Kozel with 632 points. Ramsey Meyer, 628 points. Eighth place, Steve Reitz, 588 points. Ninth place, Cade Richards, 578 points. Clint Llewellyn is sitting 10th currently with 569.999 points.
Wow.
Now, here's something interesting. Cade Richards, ninth place. I did the math today. He's got 7 races left. He's got 12 of 19 dirt nights left. He's got 7 races left. If he wins all 7 races, he will pick up an additional 560 points.
Wow.
Well, if you took 560 plus 578, that's more than what Cody Thompson's got right now.
Yep.
So it's that close. But now
So it's all up in the air.
So now look at your season-ending predictions. So right now, Cody and Tyler sitting 1 and 2, but look at the season-ending prediction. Look where they're slated to finish.
Yeah, way back in the pack.
They're back there in the pack. Well, if you look down
But
there,
that could all change if they go into Joe's and do a little racing.
Yeah, and to back that up, look at 16th place, Chantel Bade. 1,081 points. We'll look at Jordan Evans, 1,201. That's a 120-point split. That's 12 races at Joe's, getting 10 points per race, providing that there's 10 racers. With that being said, right now, currently, the pot is paying out guaranteed $206.50 minimum to first place. Well, if Chantel Bade, according to the season-ending prediction, comes in and she buys 10 races and wins all 10 of them, the pot would then jump to $251.50, and she would go from 16th to 1st, win the points. Now, with that being said, she would end up spending $135 for those 10 races, but what's $135 when you're going to be taking home $251?
Right.
So it actually makes her money.
So that's the Joe's Karting Dirt Series. You guys can become a fan of Joe's Karting Online and keep up to date with the standings. You guys do a good job of updating that throughout the week as the races progress. What do we got going on this week? Crawford Friday night.
Crawford Friday night. Found a lot of damage to the car. We're getting that car fixed right now. That's the Dirt Works. And then
where are you racing Saturday?
Saturday,
Eagle,
I'm
Shelby,
going to Eagle.
Okay.
We'll be back at Eagle this Saturday. I'll tell you what, real quick, True Grit.
Your secret super suspension is lifted?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, True Grit, last Saturday, True Grit was a big success. Randall Macue, I believe it's RJ Macue as he's commonly known, he won the $1,000 race. They had 53 hobby stocks show up.
Wow.
That's a lot of cars. Had a record car count, record fan count. Kurt Bonner, the Auto Connection Tow Crew, everybody came together, put on a good deal. Great to remember Jeff Osler in that way, so kudos to them.
All right, and that does it for the Slingin Dirt. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll do it again all next week, and we'll break down the Nebraska track results. Thanks for Buddy Ray, driver of the number 25, Joe's Karting Sport Mod, myself, Dan Taylor. Have a great weekend of racing, and stay safe, please. 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 Stay safe, please.